My children. The lords of hell are coming to devour our world.
Ahoy folks, Craig signing in for Pure Xbox to bring you our review of Blizzard Entertainment's Diablo IV. This hellish review was undertaken by Mr. Liam Doolan and turned into video by me. So, let's get stuck into it.
Then at least have the decency to join me for supper.
Blizzard Entertainment has an amazing legacy in the games industry. But in recent years, the California developer's public reputation has deteriorated following a series of controversies, a change of guard across many of its key franchises, and certain projects simply not meeting the expectations and high standards longtime fans have come to expect. Some of the latest headlines include the Overwatch 2 development team scrapping the PvE hero mode, leaving many players questioning the purpose of a sequel, and the company's famous MMO World of Warcraft has now added subscription tokens to the Wraith of the Lich King Classic, resulting in uproar throughout the community. And don't forget, this follows certain other PR nightmares, like the infamous quote, "Do you guys not have phones?"
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
You can play your tablet too.
It's all led to this next significant chapter in Blizzard's history, Diablo IV, a chance for it to prove it's still the legendary and influential developer it always has been. Diablo IV draws from the rich gameplay, history, and lore of the Hellish series spanning over 25 years. So, how is Diablo IV? Well, at launch, it's an amazingly massive leap for the series in terms of overall size of the adventure. This, and the new open world design, is perhaps the most noticeable point of difference. Once you venture beyond the city walls of Kyovashad, the map of Sanctuary is divided into 5 major zones, with areas now seamlessly interconnected. There are all sorts of stunning biomes to explore, from snow-covered mountains to swampland, making the world map quite intimidating at first. And that's not even including the 120 plus dungeons to explore, side quests, and public events that you can run alongside the main adventure. There really is a vast amount of demonic content to grind through here. The story in Diablo IV, set decades after the events of the third game, is about the return of Lilith, the mother of Sanctuary and daughter of Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred. Instead of going to the pits of hell to take down Diablo again, this time the focus is on stopping Lilith and her cultists, and it's up to you, the Wanderer and hero of this tale, alongside a new but familiar band of allies, who you'll get to know a lot better over the course of the main adventure. We can't really get into specifics here due to Blizzard's spoiler restrictions in place at the time of publishing, but we can say if you enjoyed the stories and lore in previous Diablo games, you should be just as invested from start to finish in the 4th major outing. The cutscenes, as usual, do a fantastic job fleshing out certain characters and moments in between the bits of lore and dialogue exchanges in-game. Lilith's scenes in particular had us on the edge of our seats, with her moments in the spotlight often delivering some of the most engaging and terrifying cinematic moments in the game, and perhaps the series' history. In general, the tone and themes of this entry are a lot darker than Diablo 3, and seem more in line with the earlier release, Diablo 2, which, in our opinion, is the most fitting way to depict the bleak world of Sanctuary. The hero of this story can take the form of 5 unique character classes, each with their own distinct gear, abilities, and customization options. Starting off with the classics, there's the Barbarian, Sorcerer, and Rogue, and also making a return is the Necromancer and Druid. In the review build, our main was the Brutal Barbarian class, a class that is skilled with all sorts of melee weapons, is physically dominating, and can dish out powerful attacks to both groups of enemies and bosses. Like previous Diablo entries, your class pick is everything. After all, you'll be leveling this specific character for some time, factoring the Paragon system and additional difficulty tiers, so you'll want to make sure the character you pick matches your playstyle. In terms of your hero's appearance, you can now fully customize their look. You can also make more cosmetic changes in the wardrobe while locking unique looks to your character. When you've finally picked a class and spent enough time in the character creator, you're thrust into the first zone, Fractured Peaks. During our time with the review build, the Sorcerer was easy to pick up and play, especially in the early segments, while other classes like the Barbarian didn't seem to hit their stride until later on. By the time you've powered through at least the main campaign, whatever you pick, your class will be fleshed out with all sorts of powerful skills. As for hero skills, it's the usual process, where you'll unlock a skill point after leveling up, and from there enhance a certain aspect of your build. You'll start by unlocking basic skills, and this branches out into all sorts of class-specific moves, from attacks, defense, and passive skills, and then further down an ultimate skill, which can give you the edge in battle. If you have played a Diablo game before, the types of skills on display across classes should be somewhat familiar, and there are plenty of builds per class that players will be able to experiment with for ages. In terms of the actual combat and how each class feels to play, returning players should be right at home with Diablo IV. It's got a distinct feel about it that makes clearing every area of enemies incredibly satisfying while still feeling just like a Diablo game should. And depending on your playstyle or whether you're playing solo or in a group, you may want to construct a build accordingly to either support others with summons or ranged attacks, or perhaps lead the charge with brute force. Certain enemies will also provide quite a challenge depending on your class, and like with everything else, there's a mix of new and old foes. You'll encounter ranged and close combat dealers, as well as huge tanks. And as you progress, more mobs return with special elemental effects, distributing additional damage with pools of poison or electric orbs, for example. And on higher difficulties like World Tier 2, the enemies can generally absorb more damage. Like other Diablo games, the benefit of the higher difficulty tiers is better loot drops. You'll get better weapons, potentially more legendaries, and generally be able to grind levels quicker because you'll gain more XP from each kill. Hardcore mode, where there's no respawn, also returns. Regarding leveling through and grind in general, the game features scaling. In brief, enemies will scale to your hero's level in most cases, meaning you'll never really outlevel any area in the game. While this might not appeal to every player at first, it does admittedly make sense within the context of Diablo IV's new live service open world design, ensuring zones retain players and don't necessarily become an abandoned wasteland when the community reaches a higher level. At the time of review, the game was live, but it wasn't obviously live to the general public. During our adventures, we encountered the odd players who were able to seamlessly join us in co-op quests, or join us on world events and dungeons. There's cross-progression, cross-play, and local couch co-op too, meaning you can join your friends and others on their journey in Sanctuary without worrying about what system anyone is currently playing the game on. The towns, cities, and other areas are generally busy hubs, a bit like what you would see in an MMO, but in most cases you'll find yourself alone in a lot of sections when you're running a main quest or something similar. Out in the field, it's only when you join certain public events, or say the large and stunning world boss battles, where you'll be actively fighting alongside other players, or in some cases fighting against them. The open world design of Diablo IV complements this social aspect of gameplay as you run from one biome to the next, completing your own quests while joining others to slay the demons around Sanctuary together. It truly is a next generation Diablo and a natural evolution of the series, especially with every other major game series nowadays taking a similar pathway by incorporating open world. It's also about as close as we'll probably get to a Diablo MMO. It's not entirely like that, but its improved social and multiplayer design make it feel more MMO-like compared to previous entries when you're surrounded by players running around towns and cities, and you can generally just see everyone going about their business across Sanctuary. There's also a lot more freedom in the 4th entry, with the ability to take on specific quests in your own order. And as for the world, we'll remind you again that it's absolutely huge. Fortunately, mounts are now a thing, but it might take you a while before you unlock one. There are also plenty of distractions in Diablo 4 as well, and outside of player events, side questing is something you'll find yourself doing a lot more in the 4th game. There are all sorts of different smaller scale quests to take on, and it all adds to the world building, illustrating the depressing state of Sanctuary along the way. Beyond the main campaign, players can look forward to the endgame. While we again must refrain from any major spoilers here, the fight is far from over after the final boss, with more story to uncover and all sorts of new challenges to take on across the continent. You'll unlock certain challenges and can move up to the higher tiers of difficulty to unlock even better items, drops, and rewards. From there, it's Diablo's classic rinse and repeat grind, similar to what we have seen at the end game in Diablo 3, but with its own unique twists along the way as your character progresses. Item customization also obviously plays a significant role throughout Diablo 4. While enemies mostly scale with you to give you the edge, you'll not only need to use your skills, but more powerful armor, jewelry, and weapons. These items can be further enhanced by inserting gems for extra bonuses and also unlocking legendary aspects for specific classes via the Codex of Power, powers you find hidden in dungeons. With the endgame, you can also work your way towards the Paragon board and use glyphs to further customize your hero's skill set and become even more powerful. And to top it off, there are PvP zones, Capstone, and Nightmare dungeons, which use sigils to put hero builds to the test, and Helltide events, all offering more rewards for your class. With the live service part of the game not yet in full swing, Blizzard has also outlined what's ahead after the initial launch phase. Players can look forward to seasons, adding new challenges, mysteries, and new ways to level up. There will also be a season journey, which contains limited time reward events and will pit players against extremely tough enemies. As for more divisive content coming to the game, there's a battle pass, which will allow players to unlock more rewards such as cosmetics, premium currency, and seasonal boosts. This also includes a free tier and 2 paid tiers. And last but not least is the shop, described as an optional experience for players to purchase cosmetics with premium currency. This is again entirely cosmetic, and Blizzard insists it will provide players with no gameplay advantages. Obviously, we're yet to see how this all pans out, as none of this was available in the pre-launch version of the game. Based on our own playthrough though, Diablo 4 does not require additional purchases with real money, or anything similar to progress the whole way through the main game, and there are no major paywalls from what we can see in the build either. Keep in mind, this will be an experience that Blizzard constantly evolves for years to come. And one last important part to cover here is the state of Diablo 4 on Xbox. The performance was fine during the review build on Xbox Series X. On this console, players can expect 4K at 60 FPS, and Xbox Series S players, the game runs at 1080p at 60 FPS. Although it might not look as crisp as the PC version, and the UI is slightly different to support controls in certain screens, we're pleased to say that the game is still equally as enjoyable to play on Microsoft's latest generation console hardware. The controls might also take a while to get your head around, but fortunately navigating submenus and executing attacks in battles becomes second nature after hours of play. Overall though, this might just be the best Diablo console release ever. This is all supported on Xbox and other systems with crossplay, local couch co-op, and drop-in and drop-out gameplay where your own experience goes undisrupted. We did encounter some minor bugs like quest glitches and closed doors that you could run straight through in the review build, but Blizzard promises it will resolve at least some of these problems with a day one update. You can see why it's taken Blizzard over 6 years to get this one out the gate when you look at the end product. Diablo IV is a natural evolution of the series with its new open world design and gameplay, enhanced social and multiplayer experience, and a live service that promises to keep you returning to the world of Sanctuary for years to come. These strong foundations and scale of the whole experience, combined with 5 unique classes and limitless customization options for builds, should keep even the most diehard Demon Slayers busy for a very long time. With all of this in consideration, this is a must-play if you're a veteran of the series, and it's a great starting point for newcomers. We just can't wait to jump back in. Now, fingers crossed, we don't have another Error 37 at launch. So, how do you feel about Diablo 4 now that we've given you the rundown? And will you be picking it up on day one? As always, thanks for watching this video, and be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, as well as going to purexbox.com for all the latest Xbox news, reviews, and previews. Well, there you go. All that's left for me to do now is sign off. Cheerio!